Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos.
So we have done a past episode on 12-week year. We've reviewed the book Profit First. And now we're going to do some other books, but this quarter, we are going to do a quickie about 2 books each of us have read. So it's not going to be the full in-depth conversation, but just hey guys, here's some books we've read that have been really helpful. Take it and run with it. And then if we get some feedback that says, no, we'd love you to go deeper into this or find someone who's a specialist, cool. Let us know and we'll arrange that. But right now we just wanted to give you like a bunch of quick resources. I know a lot of agents are not having fun the beginning of this year and they're probably scrambling to figure out what am I going to do. Business isn't, and guys, I'm on that list. I'm doing all the things right now and none of the things are bringing business. So I'm on the list. When things like that happen in business, I think the best thing to do, 1, go back to your basics. 2, learn everything you can. Even if it's revisiting some resources that you've read before, now is the time to dig deep. So we're going to give you 4 quick reviews of books we have read that have helped us along our career. Brenna, do you want to go first?
Sure. My first book I just read this year. Actually, I read it after I went to Beach Retreat in September. It was recommended by, I can't even tell you how many ladies there. And it is called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's a business book. It's not specific to real estate. Honestly, I don't know that any of these books that we're going to talk about today are specific to real estate. It's really just about...
One is.
Okay. About... bettering yourself, setting yourself up for success, your business up for success. And part of that is treating your business like a business. Because how many of us, I know both of us are guilty, raise your hand, Alyssa, that we just...
I don't know what you're saying yet, so I can't raise my hand.
Our commission would go into our personal bank account, and we paid everything out of that. Yes, there you go. Hands up. That's
Guilty.
Right. And for us, I was a waitress for years and years, and it's kind of how real estate is. It's like ebb and flow. There's highs and there's lows. You could have 3 closings one month and you're on top of the world, and then you don't have a closing for another month or maybe 2, or maybe you have stuff all lined up to close and then suddenly buyer gets cold feet, the builder's not done in time. There's so many million reasons why things don't go to plan, and just another reason why we should not count our chickens before they hatch. But there's 5 key takeaways that I wrote down from the book, and one of them is about...
Wait, did you say the title of the book? Did I miss you saying the title of the book?
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Okay, you did say that. Okay. Sorry.
And it kind of builds off of our Profit First that we went into, I think it was last year that we did that book review. The idea is having your business grow your business. So the buyback principle is don't just hire to grow your business, hire to reclaim your time. How many of us have read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and we get to this point that you're like, oh, I need a buyer's agent now, and now I need another buyer's agent, and now I need another buyer's agent. And while that might work for some people, that might not actually be what you need to hire out. Maybe you need a personal assistant because God love you. The emails are struggling. The response time is struggling. You need somebody to pick kids up and run them to sports, something along those lines. Don't just hire to say, I have a team of 10. Maybe You don't need a team of 10. You need somebody that does the things that you hate doing very well, so you can then pour more of your energy into the things that you love, that keep your business going and thriving and doing the things.
And it also doesn't have to be business related. I think that's an important thing too. I have taken that, and I haven't read the book yet, but I've learned that lesson along the way from other resources. I hired a lawn guy. I order my groceries sometimes. I pay, and it's going to start being regularly, but I have people clean my house when I'm on vacation, so I don't have to worry about it before I leave. Like, those are things to me.
House cleaner is a game changer.
Yeah.
Really.
And I want to bring one in at least once a month. Just clean it for me.
Yep.
Because one, we work from home. So like end of the day, I'm not clean. I don't want to clean my friggin' house.
Yep.
But those were things that were pulling me out where I was like, why am I spending an hour mowing the lawn? Which then I have an allergic reaction because I'm allergic to grass. So then I'm in a Benadryl. I'm like, no, I will pay the dude that drove by $30 a week to come mow the lawn. And it's great and it's done. And I
It
have to
looks
put
so
money on the
pretty.
back door.
Yes.
Those,
Yep.
so don't think, and sorry to overtake your synopsis, but I think that's the other important. It doesn't always have to be business related either.
Yes.
It can be something
so
that helps
important.
your personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he'll talk about like they have a house manager now. Like she
Nice.
manages their house, like laundry, food deliveries, like all the things. And that just the idea behind it is to outsource those tasks that drain your creative process because we are not good at all of the things. We can do them, but that doesn't mean that there are our sparkle, that make us excited to do this job. And there are other people that love a spreadsheet. Okay. It gives me crippling anxiety, but my sister is one of them. She loves a spreadsheet. She sees it and her eyes get all sparkly and weird and she's so excited. I have a panic attack. Okay. So let people do what they're good at by just hiring, for example, a buyer's agent to show houses. Maybe you love showing houses. Right. Hire somebody for something that you need to open up more time for you to be that showing agent and tour the houses and see all the pretty things.
And personally, I think the first thing everyone should hire is a TC.
God, yes.
Hire
the Closing Girls,
TC.
If you haven't, they're in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia?
Yes, they dropped. They're not in Vermont
They're not in Vermont anymore. No, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. If you need a TC, go back. We have an episode with them a couple of months ago. It's called Talk TC to Me. It is 100% worth the listen, and you should definitely get in touch with them. Okay. Yes. The next thing is the time and energy audit. And we've talked about this a little bit as far as like tracking your time and what you're doing, right? And this can count for the Instagram doom scroll. It can count for going out to lunch with a friend last minute, but evaluate how you're spending your time. And this helps you identify those tasks that don't align with your strengths, that don't bring you joy. And then you can be like, oh, heck, this is what I need to hire for. There's also a formula in this book that if you can hire somebody for a quarter of your hourly rate, right? And your hourly rate, it's hard for a real estate agent. Take your average commission, divide it by the average hours you'd say you worked for the average weeks. Because if you take 2 weeks off a year, that kind of thing. If you can hire somebody for a quarter of that amount, you are losing money to do it yourself.
Yes. That's a lesson my dad taught me a long time ago. So you can make more money, let someone else do it.
100%. So easy math. If you make $100 an hour, if you can hire somebody to do that for $25 an hour, but here you are scrubbing baseboards, you're losing $100 an hour to do that. Or you could have kept doing the thing that you're good at, making money, and paid somebody $25.
Yep.
Yep. Focus on your zone of genius. Spend your time on the activities where you excel, that boosts your business, that boosts the profitability, that encourages your team if you have people that you've hired, right, to do what they are good at. The other one, and this is something that I'm still working on because I'm such a mix of a paper and a Google Calendar girly.
Yep.
Calendar mastery. He said to treat your calendar like it's sacred. Proactively schedule tasks that align with your goals and avoid time-wasting activities. He doesn't schedule anything. His assistant does it. Because
I was like, that's counterproductive to what he just said.
No, because he's like, if my aunt calls and is like, hey, can we do this? And be like, ooh, well, let me like move some things and make that happen. Whereas his assistant has very like time blocked parameters. So if somebody calls like, hey, can I have a phone call with him? I need an hour. I need 20 minutes. But he doesn't have that day, where he might have tried to make that 15 minutes work for that person. Instead, she's like, I'm so sorry. I can't help you today, but I can get you in Thursday at 1:00.
Which is hard for the personal stuff. I'll tell you that. But also, I love that because I answered the phone for an agent last week who was a friend, very dear friend. And from out of state. And all of a sudden it was 2 hours later. And I was like,
yeah, it's like a time warp. You have no idea what even happened. You just wake up and you're like, oh, well, there
and
goes that lead gen.
I was like doing little things around the house, but I was like, oh my God, I just lost 2 hours of work time. Okay. I like that.
So and he breaks it up even more like for, and he talks about it in the book, but as far as like Mondays, those are his focus work time, like that he's deep in the business, whatever he's doing. Like Wednesdays and Thursdays he takes appointments or he does podcasts, like those are his appointment days. Like he has it broken up to be like, after 5, like you can't get me, you're gonna get me tomorrow maybe. His team schedule calls, like they're on a certain day, that he doesn't just time block the item, he blocks the days, like because
I like that.
How often are we like on a Zoom call and then we're trying to lead gen and we're bouncing back and forth, but we're not ever really like truly honed in or focused on that one thing. So if he has one day where he is doing all of the business things and all of his responsibilities that he has, and then on Tuesday he's having meetings with his staff or he's going on podcast interviews, or it just breaks it up, it allows your brain to grab a hold of the item that you're doing and keep your calendar on track, which is huge.
Well, and okay, today's content day, hair and makeup, done. Today's behind the scenes paperwork in the office, not doing hair and makeup. Like,
that's pajamas. That's the home uniform, you know?
That's what I had yesterday. Never got out of my
pajamas. Like simple things like that, you don't realize, like you said, like a simple phone call can just like, phew, now the day is like all messed up. Now you're trying to rush to get everything in your to-do list that you had. Whereas if you had turned your phone on to work mode, and you can set this up so work mode, if it's an emergency, people can call you, like that kind of thing. Like you can select who you would get notifications from. But sometimes I even have to take my Apple Watch off because it'll ding or it'll vibrate, and then I'm like, oh, what is it? Because we're a species that's just like easily distractible. It's just one of those things.
And I have that on my phone. Like when we record podcast and I actually need to adjust it, my phone goes on automatically 9:30. Well, it does it at 10 o'clock and I don't know why, but I've got to fix it. 9:30 for the next hour and a half. No one should be able to get through on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. The last thing is building systems, which is really important for real estate, especially if you're going to be hiring people out. He has a super, super interesting chapter about how he creates repeatable processes to reduce inefficiency in his team. So he creates a playbook for everything. His house manager has a playbook of like how the laundry's done. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. This is the kind of freshener. This is how long he wants it in the dryer. Like, the most ridiculous things. But he said if you do it and set somebody up with the way that there's no possible way that they make a mistake or they mess this up, and if they do, it's not going to work.
Or if they do, it means that you built your process wrong. Because before real estate, that was my last job. One of my last jobs was designing processes at a high corporate executive level. And we told the people, if you follow the process and something goes wrong, you're not in trouble. If you step outside the process and something goes wrong, then that's on you.
Then you're in trouble, right? But it's he'd had like videos. He was talking about how he used to like have people in his car and he's driving them and trying to teach while he's driving because he has meetings and all this stuff. And then he realized how much time like he'd repeated himself over the course of hiring these like however many individuals. And he did screen recordings and he did this, and everything he has that any new team member at all gets a playbook of what their job is, all of the systems and processes, and how to document and keep that information available for him for their weekly meetings, for their checkups, like how he wants even just their reports and their information structured. So their time is respected on both sides. He's respecting their time. They have a job. They're respecting his time because he's paying the bills and he has a job
and
too.
It's easier to consume. Like, you know what you're looking for. You can find it. You're not digging. I love it.
Yep. So that's it. That's the quick
and I have that
5-point
book.
synopsis on there.
I have that book. I just haven't read it yet. So I'm going to dig. I have like a whole stack of books. I got a bunch for Christmas, and literally it's just a stack in my kitchen. I'm like, okay, we're going to start moving through these.
Yeah, it's good. It's just
But
it's a good like work smarter, not harder. Let people do the things that they're good at. Stop struggling with your Canva templates. If you can't figure it
Yes.
out, hire a
Buy one.
VA that can have that template done for you in 2 seconds. I
Yes.
see, and I mean the average age, according to the NAR recent stats, the average age of a realtor is like 56. So I mean, I know that like my mom struggles with Canva. Yeah, it's just one of those things
My mom
that
my mom this morning struggled with the Roku. So,
oh,
by the way,
see what
mom's here.
exactly. I'm just like,
Yeah.
do what you're good at.
Well, and I
Let
met an
somebody
agent
else.
yesterday
Mm-hmm.
who's been in the industry 48 years.
Jesus
Happened to run into this woman.
Christ.
And she was trying to figure out who one of her clients owns a bunch of rentals. And she had this whole list of properties. And she was like, yeah, she owns all these lots across the street from you. And I was like, no, she doesn't. And she's like, well, I searched deeds with her name. And I was like,
yeah,
but did
but
you
they're
look
old
at them?
deeds, right?
Right. She had this whole list. And I was like, no, honey, that's not how we do that anymore. And I like pulled up the app and I was like, boop, boop, nope, owned by such and such. I said, she owns these 2 houses on the street. And she was like, what?
You know how much time she probably spent digging up those deeds?
I know. And I thought because
Time.
she's also been driving around looking at houses that her client may or may not own anymore.
Oh,
I was like, oh God. But no, I love this book. I love the idea of it. There's a lot of great lessons in it. And it's probably going to the top of, I got to sort through my reading list. But it's on the list.
It's a good one. And I know you like Audible too, and it's easy to it's an easy listen on Audible also. So
yes. Speaking of which, I'm gonna go to my second book first then, because I can honestly say I've never read this book.
Okay.
But I've listened to it probably 24 times, if not more.
Nice.
I bought it on, I use Apple Books, but bought it on there. And it's called Exactly What to Say for Realtors. And it's...
Wait, that's my second one, except it's just the exactly what to say, not for realtors. That's okay. Go for it.
Okay, so we're only covering 3 books
just
today,
3
ladies
books
and gentlemen.
Today. We don't talk to each other outside of podcast days. What's the matter?
We do, but how did we? I mean, literally last week we said what books we were going to cover. How did we not realize?
I know.
That's funny.
Okay, anyways, carry on.
Anyway, so I listened to this one. Actually, I was listening to it yesterday. It's written by Phil Jones, but Jimmy Mackin and Chris Smith also. This one has a little more than the original. It's very realtor specific.
Cool.
And they give you situations where, like, the phrases from the original book they give you situations that would be realtor specific. And Jimmy Mackin and Chris Smith are well known in real estate. Jimmy Mackin owns listingleads.com. And Chris Smith wrote The Conversion Code, which is all about social media for realtors.
Also a very good book.
Very good books. Well, The Conversion Code is, I don't know if Jimmy has a book, but Jimmy is an amazing resource. And so it gives you, like, communication in our industry is so important. We have to know what to say and how to say it. And you can't put every response in a conversation through ChatGPT. Like, I can't sit there with a client and be like, one moment. That's not going to work. So this is a great, like, resource. And when I run out of podcasts during the week, I throw this book on play and just let it play, because there are so many things. I think the thing I took away a lot is, like, words matter. The way we say something or the words we use to say it can either open a door or close a door. Because how many times, like yesterday, that agent I just mentioned asked me where I was from. I know in my town, I cannot just say I'm from New York. I have to say I'm from New York, but like the Canadian border, the nice part, that's kind of like this. Because if I don't, they go, oh.
And
thankfully she was from New Jersey. So I was like, oh, I outrank you. We're good.
Anyway.
But it's things like that. And that's like a non-real estate specific, but there are in listing presentations or trying to get to know buyers. Like we've talked about it before. Was I raised in the church? Absolutely. Is it something I focus on at this point in my life? No. But I know well enough that when my clients bring up something religious, to not say certain things,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so he gives you some phrases. So like one of them is like, just imagine. That one to me, especially with buyers who can't picture things, that one, priceless. Because I can be like, just imagine if you repaint this wall.
Mm-hmm.
Or just imagine, the last house we looked at, you didn't like the floor plan, but you're in love with that shiplap. What if we put the shiplap over here? Like that's something you can upgrade after you close. So is the floor plan more important or the shiplap?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, that one specifically, it just helps clients
Yeah.
picture like the benefit of a decision, which also I implement the just imagine into listing descriptions also, because how many
Okay.
listing descriptions have you seen that are like, welcome to this 3 bedroom, you can get all of that information
Right.
half a scroll up where it says 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet,
Right.
But
Exactly.
just imagine living 5 minutes away from the local brewery, like how cool is
Yep.
that? But
Right.
things like that it just sparks a different there, and it's explained in the book of what actually happens in your brain when these words are used, but they call them magic words, don't they, in the
Right.
book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They call them magic phrases. Yeah.
Hmm.
And like the other one is like, what happens next is.
I
So
love that one.
yes. And I use this a lot in email too. So it'll start with like, okay, here's what we're under contract. What happens next?
Hmm.
But I also use it when I'm talking to clients to be like, okay, if we, just a reminder, because we've already gone through this in our consult, but like if we go under contract today, what happens next is like these things will all happen within. Are you ready for what happens next? Like,
Yes.
can you clear your schedule to be at inspections this week or things like that?
Yep.
My favorite is I'm not sure if this is for you, but.
Takes the
And
pressure off of it.
yes. And I, like when I find one off properties for my clients, that's my favorite phrase.
Hmm.
Not sure if this is for you, but I saw
Wanted
it
to
and
make
thought
sure
of you.
you had the opportunity to take a look at it.
That's what nailed me a $960,000 closing last year
Hmm.
because I knew the location they wanted. I knew the amount of land they really wanted and like the seclusion. But the style of house wasn't anything they had told me about. And so I just sent it. I said, I don't know if this is for you, but 45 days later, we were closed and they moved in because
Yep.
we went to look at it and they were like, this is perfect. And I was like, huh.
Interesting.
But it's an approachable way to give people options without being pushy.
Yeah, and
Or like,
it gives them the opportunity to say, no, that's
right.
not for me.
Or it's a great way if you have a cold lead that, I have one that want a lake house, but they're not in a rush when they find the one. So I may not talk to them for a while or have listings for them for a while because they're very specific.
Hmm.
So when I find something that might fit, that's literally, I don't know if this is for you or I saw this and thought of you is another way like I frame that.
Yep.
Because these help you frame a conversation so people feel guided and not pressured or pushed. And it helps you be seen as an advisor, not as a salesperson,
Yes.
because we want to be trusted. We want to be liked, loved, all of those things.
Hmm. That's
Um,
the same thing with the what happens next is phrase.
yes.
It's a way to clarify, because again, in our industry, not everybody has bought and sold before. Most
Right.
of the time they haven't, or if they have, it's been years and years and the rules have changed again, right?
Yes.
So it provides clarity, but it also immediately positions you as that information person, that guide, because you're like, okay, here we are. We're at this place. What happens next is, and it forms a trust because they're like, oh, Brenna knows
Yep.
what happens next. That's great.
Right. Brenna, right. We're paying Brenna and Alyssa for a reason
Mm-hmm.
because they know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said, I've never read it because when it was presented to me, I was like, this is one I'm going to I want to hear how he phrases it. I want to hear what he like leans into when he says things. Um, and I wanted to be able to access it often without having to sit down and read something.
Well,
And I
and
was like, okay,
it's one of those things too that if you're listening to it, you are without even noticing it, it's sticking in your brain more. So it becomes more fluent. It just rolls off the tongue. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Exactly.
I've actually heard a couple of people, I think it's her name's Jessica something, but she's done like a listing presentation using exactly what to say phrases, which is really, really good as far as handling those objections and things, because it's things that you wouldn't necessarily, you don't want to sit there and be like, well, I mean, I guess after, if you want to, like, how do you feel? Do you like me? Like, do you want to? Right? So another one that I really like is you have three options, or we have three options. I like to say we makes it sound like we're already a team, right? We have three options here. We can go coming soon and utilize that 21 days of full marketing while you finish this that we've talked about. We could go directly active on this date, and just kind of, because again, that's like, oh wow, she's ready to rock and roll and has a plan, but they get the option. It's the same thing with how I structure the big commission thing right now too. You pick.
Right.
You pick what you want on your pizza, like
right.
you
do
let
you want
me
me
know.
to do a really good job and get you top dollar, or do you want to think you're pinching pennies or saving money when really you're pinching pennies and costing yourself big money in the long run?
Yeah.
You tell me.
Yeah. And the last one, because again, this is one that we both had on our. This is how good it is, you guys. You really should get this.
I would say this is, if we both picked this without even talking to each other. I feel like this is like when best friends show up wearing the same outfit,
the same clothes,
and
right?
Like Aaron and I do it all the time. The other day we showed up hoodie, jeans, Converse Chucks, and I was just like,
"We twinsies.
You got to change because you're at your house." Like.
But no, I haven't actually read the real estate one. I'd heard that there was a realtor specific one, but the only one that I've read is the exactly what to say. Actually, Heather Cook gave it to me the first time I met her. So, the last one that I had written down, because you said all of the great pieces that I had too, was how would you feel if?
Yes.
How would you feel if? I actually just used this this weekend discussing with a seller, because we had an offer on the table and a rumor of some potential person maybe coming from out of state, maybe cash, quick close to come see this house, right?
Like a celebrity? How do you have a rumor about that? I don't understand.
Well, because the agent is like, she might be able to make it. We could be there tomorrow. Might be middle of the week. It was just like very, but it's one of those information pieces I have to share, right? I can't just like not tell them. But they're like, well, what if we just tell this buyer that we can't make a decision until XYZ? And I'm like, okay, it's an option. How would you feel if you put in an offer for your next house and they thought that maybe they might get a better offer in a couple of days, but wanted to string you along for the ride?
Right.
Just in case. Because it's a good offer, but there might be something better in 48 hours. So.
And how would you feel if we told them that and then they rescinded their offer and now you have nothing and we can't guarantee this other person is going to write something?
Exactly.
How would you feel?
Exactly. And I told them, I was like, listen, this little tidbit of advice is straight from my Nana, okay? A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. All right? We have no idea what could happen. And lo and behold, I got a text the next day that was like, oh, well, if she makes it, it won't be until mid to end of the week. And now, next time she's in town, they might stop by.
Yeah, no.
So, it's just one of those things. But no.
If they wanted it, they'd be there.
I'm gonna tie them all up, all of the 5 ones that we used again real quick. We have, I'm not sure if this is for you, but, which is a low pressure way to introduce an idea, giving them an out. How would you feel if what happens next is, just imagine. I love that one. And we have 3 options, or we have 2 options, whatever that is. Give them an option. It gives them that sense of control and outlines the choices for them.
Yep.
Okay, now that we did that like little duo one, what's the
Without
last book that you what's the last book that you picked? Well, that was my next book, so we're only doing 3.
Oh yeah, sorry. I picked Atomic Habits. Again, not realtor specific, but I also think it ties in a lot to also buy back your time. There's a lot of things in there that are similar here, like set. And so Atomic Habits is by James Clear, and it focuses on like small, consistent actions that lead to big, meaningful results. And we all know that it's the consistent things we do in our business that bring us more business. It's that lack of consistency that can ruin you. Mm-hmm. So, or that, can not, I don't want to say ruin you, but can slow things down. So it's his thing is like make small changes with big results. So those tiny improvements, maybe changing one thing, maybe waking up 10 minutes earlier and then compounding that 10 minutes earlier each week. They compound over time. So like the one follow-up call you make today because you finally started making your follow-up calls could be your big sale next month. Or he has the 4 laws of behavior change. So make it obvious. Keep a visual reminder. So like for real estate, your CRM should be open on your laptop every time you open it. Or maybe it's your Trello if you're not using a CRM. Whatever you're using to track leads, past clients, deals every day. First thing you should look at. Make it attractive. So like reward yourself. So I know like the other day, what was I doing? Something that required me to be in the office. And I think I was working on expireds. And I was like, okay, if you knock these 4 out, you can go do whatever real quick and come back.
Gosh, I do love it when we bribe ourselves.
Right?
So good.
Right? Or like, someone I know, my bestie, my other bestie, told herself like business was not great last year. So she said, if I can get 2 closings in the first quarter of 2025, I'm buying myself a pair of Golden Goose sneakers. Girl bought those sneakers last week.
Nice.
So it may not be like instant satisfaction. You can set a longer range knowing like, okay, I've put the work in, but make it attractive. Reward yourself for completing those tasks. So, there's lots of options that you could do, things that would fit into your personal. Make it easy is the 3rd law. Mm-hmm. Break it down. So that kind of reminds me of like 12-week year. We set goals, but we're breaking them down into 4 quarters. So this is like send one DM instead of feeling like you have to tackle your whole database. Or like, what's that? I can't remember the name of the system, but like to split your database by letters.
I can never remember what they call it.
I know. I could look it up.
D2, D something?
Yeah, something like that. But it breaks it out. So maybe pick like, okay, today, and you can't, maybe even just 2 letters a month is too much for you as you start. Okay, 1 letter a month. Like break it, make it consumable. And then also make it satisfying. So celebrate the small wins. Like if you book an appointment or you complete your prospecting for the day. All right, let's celebrate. It's a little different than make it attractive. And maybe I used the wrong example there. So like make it attractive is like, okay, if I get these 5 calls done, I can go to the coffee shop and buy myself a coffee today. I don't have to drink homebrew. Something like that. Where make it satisfying is more of like celebrate your small wins. So maybe a small win is I got a deal under contract. I'm going to go whatever you're.
Girl, that's a big win. What are you talking about?
Well, or like, so maybe it's like you got the appointment. You got the listing appointment.
Yep.
Celebrate and go do something.
So you said that you were going to make 20 calls, but you only made 12, but one of them was an appointment. That's a win.
Right, that's a win.
That's a little win. The other, and I love Atomic Habits too, because, and I feel like it ties into like New Year's resolutions. How many people have not worked out in the last 8 months and they're like, I'm going to the gym 5 days a week, right? And then how often do they not? Because
or
going from 0.
Right. They go 5 days a week for the first 2 weeks and then they're burnt out and they hate it.
Yep.
And they quit and they're done.
Yep.
And we're back
That's
to
like us being like, we're going to do 3 hours of lead gen every day. And then you're like, oh God. And then we just start with, thumbs up. We start with those 10-minute prospecting, right? Like the episode that we had last week. 10-minute prospecting.
Last week I think it was.
Make it a bite-sized chunk. How do you eat a whale?
One bite at a time.
That's how.
Yes. I mean, you can also look at the eat the frog theory, but yes, you eat a whale one bite at a time. So if something feels overwhelming, break it down like this. And because you will be more consistent, you won't feel like, oh, I have to do all of this. Like, I'm pursuing expireds this year. So my first thing was, okay, we'll start with a letter. Let's get that letter designed and get those out. And then we can, the next week when we have to do the second step, we can build on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're not saying like I'm going to do 3 hours of lead gen and then we're like working up to 3 hours of lead gen. Maybe you do, but maybe you don't. Maybe you do 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. But guess what? 10 minutes or 30 minutes a day is more than the 0 that you did because you were like, I don't want to do 3 hours.
Exactly. That's
1%
why I
better
like
each
couch
day.
to 5K programs. Think of it like that. It's like a couch to a 5K.
Yeah.
You've never run a race before in your life, but you want to do it. Well, the couch to 5K is not going to tell you to go out and run a 5K the first day. They're going to tell you to take a walk around the block.
Correct.
Or buy new sneakers.
It's a little better. It's a little change that like makes big changes. It's the 1% better every day.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, you're 365% better because you made a change. This is as simple as, you want to cut out soda. Well, if you're drinking 2 liters of soda a day, you're probably not going to go cold turkey. Maybe we just drink one of the small ones, the 20-ounce ones,
right,
for a while, and then maybe a 12-ounce can, and then maybe one of those little itty bitty baby cans.
Yes.
But the idea is, I feel like we are so hard on each other, on ourselves, with like, oh well, they said they were going to do this, and they're only doing this. Guess what? If you stay consistent with only doing that, you're still going to be better than the people that lead gen for 3 days on Monday, skip next week, pick it up on Thursday the following week, and do 3 hours. Consistency is the key. Even like slow and steady wins the race.
Yes, it does. Slow and steady.
So,
okay, so that's our last book.
That was good.
So we covered Buy Back Your Time
by Dan Martell.
Atomic Habits. Yes, by Dan Martell. Atomic Habits by James Clear. And
Exactly What
to Say by Phil Jones. And there is a realtor specific version. I would recommend for that one, certainly, if you are good at consuming audiobooks, grab the audio and just play it on repeat when you're in the car or, you're flying and you don't have anything to occupy. That one, because you can listen to how they say it and they give you some really great examples with some really awesome resources in there, especially you've got Jimmy Mackin and Chris Smith coming into that edition. So
that's good. I liked this.
Right? Right. And if you don't know where to find them, shoot us a DM. We'll send you the link. Anyway, we will see y'all next week.
Bye, guys. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.